What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is March 11th, 2024, 4:04 in the afternoon, and what a fantastic morning we had. We were able to find a whole bunch of trade opportunities, both to the downside and the upside, with my last one, or the last suggested trade or talked about trade, coming right around 11:45 in the afternoon. I don't trade after 12 o'clock, guys, but you usually don't need to. And the one thing that I want to make clear about today is that we had a bunch of very good opportunities in both directions. And for folks who don't take advantage of trades that some of us find or see because of whatever reason, that's okay, right? If you didn't trade today because you didn't feel comfortable buying calls or puts, that's fine. Okay, it's important that you don't take trades you don't feel comfortable trading. However, if we have made good moves in both directions in the first half of the day, and then you see the chart tighten up, and that's the time you want to trade, be very, very cautious. Don't put yourself in that situation, because many times the reason you want to take a trade at that time is because you missed great opportunities to take them when it was the right time. Okay, there was not much to trade, in my opinion, after 12 o'clock today. We tightened up a lot. We did bounce between levels, but pretty choppy chart later in the day. With that said, let's go ahead and launch today's chart and take a look at what was going on. So we had a charting session this morning. So everybody in my pre-market or in my community who decided to join us for the live charting session this morning, I hope it was useful. You got to see how these lines worked out all day long today. With that said, I have to admit that today's charting session, I had very little faith in the lines this morning, meaning I didn't expect these lines to hold very well today, because at the time we were doing this charting, which is about 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, there wasn't much to go by. You had low volume crap leading up to 8 o'clock. The 8 o'clock candles weren't very big. And we kind of just settled in this area down here. So finding targets high and targets low was kind of rough. So I didn't feel real good about this chart. This was another couch in the kitchen chart leading into the open.9:35, I will say this. As we started to move up in pre-market like this, as 9:25 gets here, we always talk about, what am I looking to do for myself for calls or for puts? Well, what I told everybody is, I don't like it to the upside, but if you're going to play calls, do it above 510.64, hoping to make it to 510.95, maybe even close the gap at 511.13. Now we opened and went right through it. I'm not taking that trade. The other thing that I said at 9:25, besides I'm not playing it to the upside, was what I'd prefer to do to play calls is a pullback, make sure this pre-market mid holds the support, and then play it to the pre-market high for my profit. We weren't given that opportunity. Instead, we moved up, and at this time, all the stars aligned. ADD and Qs and NVIDIA started to move down. Okay, maybe not ADD. I think it was just Qs and NVIDIA. Yes. And so I said, guys, I know I'm not taking calls here, but I'm probably going to be taking puts here. And I'll be looking for, hopefully, wanting to get down to 509.98. However, we had recently found support right here in pre-market. You had support right here. So you've got to be aware of these lines if you're going to take these trades. Where was the last time we stopped moving lower? The last time we came through this blue line or came off of that blue line. It's right there. You will see this play out over and over and over again, both to the upside and the downside, guys. You cannot ignore support and resistance. Sometimes the supports hold, sometimes they don't. You are not going to be able to know ever which times is going to hold, which times it's not. All you can do is say, hey, I intended to get out here. I told myself I'm going to get out at the next support we come to, and you take your profits. Otherwise, you hold on, you have a stop loss, and you make your trade plan come to fruition. With that said, that was one quick trade. Now, I didn't get in right at the top. I kind of got in somewhere in the middle of this candle that ended up being a 17.2% win. It's nice to get that kind of a trade out of the gate, get a good green trade, under your belt to start the day. We pull back up to resistance, okay? Qs pulled back up, same area of resistance. It's holding. We're looking for the move to continue back down. I'm still looking for and hoping for this line down here. Now, we get in. We struggled to move lower. This was an uncomfortable time. But at that time, I believe by this time, ADD started to go south. Let me double check here. No. Or was it? 936? Yeah, so ADD had just started to move down at 936. Our first red candle on ADD for the day. That made me feel a lot better. Qs were still struggling to move higher. Made me feel good. SPY was at resistance. Made me feel good. This was the entry. Pull back to resistance. Everything else lined up. The exit was if Qs close above 437.92, we got to get out of these puts. That's what it was. That's what was my trade plan was. Get in. Qs hold this resistance. I'm staying in. Then we were fortunate enough to develop a downtrend on the Qs that just dumped. And it's for that reason that I ended up moving my stop down. I held on as long as I could. We wanted to just keep going forever, but as you know, it doesn't go forever. And I got stopped out myself on this candle. Now, we had a whole bunch of people that got in up here that held and made much more money or bigger return on that investment than I did. I don't like to play that way. This particular trade here was a 56.5% win. That's a home run for me. That was my second trade and last trade of the day. This entry here was a breach of the put line. The put line was at 509.98. We were looking for it to go down to 509.41. It did exactly that. So we had people jump into puts there. We had people hold on. We had people try and stay here. Well, what was going on here at 10 o'clock? Well, normally we don't want to hold through a 10 o'clock candle, but at 10 o'clock, we also had Qs below a line of support. The reason we were holding on to these puts for people who were still in them, guys, do yourself a favor. As long as Qs continue to trend down or at the very least stay below 436.20, there's a good chance we could have more room to the downside. Okay. Well, they stayed in. Many people stayed in to this trade up here or here because Qs stayed below that line. Qs held us down. We moved down to our next support line that ended up being almost the low of day being right here, which was just beyond our futures line. Okay. Double line in either case is not usually lines you want to hold through. Okay. Think of them as being double strong. That's how I tell our members when they ask me which lines do you hold more value in than the other. It's not because of the color of the line. It's how many of them are stacked near each other. So we get down there, we find support, lower high, okay? And then, of course, if you're holding on to puts, because if it's a trend, our downtrend broke officially at 1016, or you can make it 1017, whichever you prefer. Does that mean we should yeet into calls? Absolutely not. In fact, it was above this line that I told everybody, guys, I know we broke the downtrend, does not mean I would buy into calls. And the reason for this had everything to do with the Qs. So the Qs had broken their downtrend, okay? And they had recently closed right above. Now I said the reason I wouldn't buy calls here, that has nothing to do with SPY, is because if Qs first have to break this resistance area here, which they finally closed above that blue line at 1017, their next resistance is right here, okay? If that hits and holds in a downtrending market, which is why I said I wouldn't buy calls here, you could see SPY made it to its resistance, but it doesn't matter. Was it Qs or was it SPY stopped it from going up? I don't know. But at 10:20 in the morning, they both stopped going up and pulled back down. Now, while this is happening, we're putting in higher lows. Jimmy, where would you be interested in buying calls? I said, well, I'd probably wait for at least a breach above 509.45 and make sure the Qs are at least above that 436.20 line. That's it. I mean, you're going to have to try and ignore these guys here. But that's what you're looking for, right? We pay attention to the Qs all the time. Wait a minute. What are we doing? Are we already past those levels on the Qs? 1031? Yeah, I'm sorry. If we get above 437, that's what we said. By the way, guys, I'm building out quite the server rack, ordered all the equipment, and this won't matter to anybody but maybe our members. My goal is to start with a very, very large NAS system, recording all of our trading sessions from open till 12 o'clock in the afternoon so that our members can go back and reference those videos throughout the day, hear everything that's talked about, hear everything that's said, and learn from it without actually, I know a lot of people can't be there in the morning with us, and that's fine. You can still learn a lot from listening to what we talk about. So, just like I wasn't going to play calls because of Qs having resistance not only at this blue line, but at this level here and the one right here, we wanted to make sure we were clear of at least that, which we were. So at 10:30, we'd finally closed above the resistances that were keeping us down. SPY also got above its resistance. This was a go trade. That's why we talked about that. I won't hold through lines of support and resistance on counter trend trades. It's just one of my rules. We're currently trending down at this point. Okay, on the day, we move up, we break resistance, we're looking for the next resistance up. That's it. There's your lines from 41 to 98. It's over a 50-cent move. That's good return on your money. The line holds, we reject, and we come back down. Now, we're pulling back to support off of a higher low. What is going on at Qs at 1047? Qs also pulling back to support off of a higher low. Okay. Now, the one thing you had to be cautious of here, and this is the same thing when we're looking at it in SPY, we're also coming off of a lower high. So this is a wedge. Ideally, we like to wait for wedges to break before we get into that trade. So if you would have waited till 1049 to make sure the wedge breaks up, or even if you're aggressive at 1047, you've got to stack those probabilities in your favor. So even if you waited an extra minute or two on 1049, you may have robbed yourself of the first exit target. Otherwise, you're looking for this thing to continue up to the next resistance if we close above the one before it. Okay. And then we get here. Take your profits. Why? Because we had a very difficult time, not only in SPY holding above that blue line, but the Qs we're also about to run into a very strong resistance over here. Okay, that's what we got. We hit that resistance. I told everybody I wouldn't hold through this if I was in calls, not because it can't go through, but because I know the last time we tried to, we couldn't. That's it. That's what I do. I don't trade what I hope to happen. I trade what already happened. If I'm wrong, I leave extra money on the table. If I'm right, I maximize my return at that moment. Now, if you held on to calls trying to get through this line, you were pretty uncomfortable for a little bit. If you had a stop loss, you could have afforded to do that, especially if you got in way down here. Okay, there's a different scenario for everything, guys. Now, at this particular point at 1107, we were looking for Qs, and I said this clear as day. Jimmy, I was asked, Jimmy, when would you be interested in puts again? Would you buy them here? I said, there's a couple things that need to be true for me to buy puts up here. Number one, we need to get back below 510.62. Number two, Qs better be below 437.92. That didn't happen until 1107 on both SPY and on the Qs. Where are we looking to go? The first target down. If it breaks through that, where's your next support down? Is it here? Not on SPY, it's not. And I don't think it was on Qs either. No, it wasn't. Okay. Is it here? Well, now it could be here. Look at how many times we found support at that level. Guys, it doesn't always have to be existing in advance. There's no way for you to know that this is the bottom. Until we come up, we hold resistance, we stop there again, we hold resistance. How many times do you want to come down and touch that before you say, move, struggling to go lower? Let me just take what profits I already had. And that was a good trade if you stayed in it. Now, same rules we're applying. Guys, if you're holding on to these puts on SPY, as long as Qs stay below that trend line, there should be more movement to the downside. If we close above that trend line, you're going to want to get out. So if you held on to this trade till 11:35, you would have stopped out based on the Qs right here, which was no different than getting out right here. However, we did hold out and get down to 509.41 and the next support down, which was right here. And the reason this circle's here, I want to tell you, is because on the Qs, we had just touched its support. So I watch this when I'm not in my trades. I watch this when I'm in my trades, and I let everybody know. If you're in puts, Qs are coming down to support. I make sure I let everybody know as we're getting close to them and the minute we hit them so that they can make a decision to get out if they want. I don't know what's going to happen when we get there. I don't know. Nobody knows. But if you're aware of it, you might be willing to take your profits based on the fact that we got there. Okay? That's all we got. That was why that circle was there. And then we start moving up. Jimmy, where would you be interested in buying calls? I said, well, we're coming off higher lows, which is good. We want to get through 509.98, okay, and make sure the Qs are breaking through a level of resistance right here, 11:45, okay? This is when they both broke resistance, both coming off higher lows. You get into the trade. Where are we looking to go? The next resistance up is right here. The next one up is right there. That's it. Those were all the trade opportunities that I saw today that we talked about well in advance, 2 of which I took myself. The rest, I didn't trade, but that's okay. We talk about them so people can learn how to spot trade opportunities. Now, if you can't trade in the morning, that's unfortunate. I understand, life happens, but that is the best time to trade, in my opinion. You will see that after the morning session, things got much, much tighter. The range got tighter, okay? It wasn't pleasant to mess around in this zone, okay? When you start seeing all these red-green arrows showing up, guys, look at how many fewer of them are down here, and then look at them here. This is the market telling you it doesn't know what it wants to do, okay? It's the market telling you it doesn't know what it wants to do. But if you're going to buy calls because we broke resistance, or here, the pink line is the stink line. I was telling people all day, I didn't suggest or talk about any calls above 510.64. I didn't like it up there. We had too many resistances up there, and every time prior to that we had made it up there, we couldn't hold. Okay, it just wasn't worth it. It just wasn't worth it. Oh, but Jimmy, what about that one time it did get through and made it to the pink line? That's fine. That's fine. You guys asked me my opinion. If you ask me my opinion, I'm going to give you my opinion. I don't know everything. I don't know that this thing's not going to rocket ship up. I don't know. I just know what I feel and what I think and what I understand based on price action. I know CPI is tomorrow. I was pretty excited and completely unexpected a move of these sizes on his pre-CPI day. I thought we were going to have something that looked more like this today. So I'm pleasantly surprised to have made great money and be done by 9:56 in the morning. We had a whole bunch of just our community win rate right now. I think we have 22 reds and almost 200 greens right now. It was a great trading day until it wasn't. Okay. Now I took my lunch a little bit late today, somewhere around 12:45, right around when we were pushing up against the pink line. And before I left, somebody asked me, Jimmy, would you buy calls above the pink line? I said, I personally wouldn't, but if you're going to do it, make sure we're above the pink line, make sure Qs aren't at resistance and that they have room to go up. And if you want it, take it to the next line. I mean, it's your money, guys. You do what you're going to do with your money. I can't tell you what to do with your money. I can tell you what I would and wouldn't do with mine, which is what we do in here all day long. All right. Many of you today got to see in real time, because we have a lot of new members in here, how well support and resistance works and how you can stack probabilities in your favor to find good trade setups that work. And you also, many of you learned today that you don't have to take a whole bunch of trades to make good money. Okay? You just got to take the right trades to make good money. All right? And we found a couple of those today. More trades does not mean more money. More time in the market is increasing risk of losing, just like a casino. With that said, there was nothing else I had to offer, mainly because I didn't trust anything up here, and secondly, because I had to leave at 2 o'clock to go pick up my kids from school. 2:30, 2:40. Well, whatever the case was, it didn't do much anyway. And that's it. So I hope you all did all right today. I hope you also found some useful information in this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. If you'd like to join our Discord community, well, there's a link down below. We'd love to have you. Just going to start putting this out there at the end of these videos because we're getting close to that time. If you're interested in becoming a member, I'm not trying to sell you on staying for a year, but the quarterly discount is happening at the end of this month for our annual plan. That gives you the equivalent. It gives you the equivalent of paying $50 a month versus the $100 that it normally is. Okay, but you have to pay a year in advance. That is happening for the last 3 days of this month. All right, so if you're interested in joining and you think that you would be here for more than 6 months, and as a regular monthly member, it would be worth you doing the annual. With that said, hope you all had a fantastic day today. Look forward to CPI tomorrow. And yeah, we'll get at it then. I love you guys. Till tomorrow. See ya.